The English mistake that cost her the job. Maria stood outside the tall glass building, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her leather folder. It was her third job interview in 2 months, and this one mattered more than the others. Not because the company was bigger or the salary higher, but because she was tired. Tired of rejection, tired of doubt, tired of explaining her story. At 32, Maria had already restarted her life twice. Once when she left Venezuela during the economic collapse, and again when her teaching credentials didn't transfer to the United States. She had gone from respected literature teacher to cleaning hotel rooms just to survive. But she had learned, she had studied, and most of all, she had fought. After 3 years of English night classes, working 2 jobs, and sending money back home to her parents, she had finally earned a business communication certificate. It wasn't a master's degree, but it was enough to open a door. This door. She looked at her reflection in the building's mirrored entrance. Her curly black hair was tied into a neat bun, and her blazer, second-hand but carefully pressed, looked professional enough. She took a deep breath. "I am ready," she whispered, stepping into the lobby. The waiting area smelled like new carpet and coffee. She checked in with the receptionist and waited, going over her notes silently. Confident tone, eye contact, speak slowly. She had rehearsed answers in front of a mirror every night for 2 weeks. Finally, her name was called. She stood, heart pounding. The interview panel was 2 people, a man with silver glasses who introduced himself as Mr. Langston, and a woman named Claire with a kind but unreadable smile. The questions began, and to Maria's relief, she knew the answers. "Tell us about yourself. Why do you want to work here? What are your strengths?" Her English wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. She explained her organizational skills, her passion for helping others, her work ethic. She saw Claire nodding occasionally, jotting something down. Mr. Langston remained more neutral, but polite. Maria started to feel a bit of hope bloom in her chest. Then came the final question, "And why are you leaving your current job?" Mr. Langston asked. Maria sat up a little straighter. She had prepared for this. She smiled and said confidently, "Because I am boring in my current position." The room fell silent. Claire blinked. Mr. Langston tilted his head. "Could you repeat that?" he asked gently. Maria, not sensing the mistake, said again, "I am boring in my job. I don't learn new things anymore." Claire's expression shifted slightly. Polite confusion mixed with something else. Pity, maybe. "You mean, you're bored in your position?" Maria forced a small laugh to shake it off, but she could feel her confidence slipping. They continued politely, wrapping up with a handshake and a "we'll be in touch." But she already knew. She knew the difference between a door being open and a door being quietly, firmly shut. The rejection email came 3 days later. "Dear Maria, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. While we were impressed with your background and work ethic, we've decided to proceed with a candidate whose experience more closely matches our current needs. We wish you all the best in your career journey." Maria sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the words, her eyes stinging. She whispered aloud bitterly, "Bored. I was bored, not boring." It felt so small, just one wrong word, one tiny mistake in a sea of sentences, but she knew how the corporate world worked. First impressions mattered. Language was everything. One slip could make you seem less intelligent, less confident, less professional, even if it wasn't true. That night, Maria didn't sleep. She lay on her mattress, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how unfair it all was, how much harder she had to try, how, in her home country, she had been a respected educator, a woman with a voice. Here, she felt like a shadow, always just behind the right word, the right accent, the right version of herself. Her phone buzzed, a message from her friend Lila. "Any news from the interview?" Maria didn't answer right away. She couldn't find the words. Then finally she replied, "I said I was boring. I meant bored. I think that's why I didn't get it." Lila's response came quickly. "That's ridiculous. Everyone makes mistakes. Your meaning was clear." But was it? Maria wasn't sure anymore. The next day, Maria was back at the hotel, changing bedsheets on the 12th floor. The work was physical and thankless, but she needed the money. As she moved through the room, she kept thinking about the interview, replaying it again and again. Each time she imagined saying it right. "I'm bored with my current job." Maybe then they would have seen her differently. Maybe then she would have mattered more. But regret doesn't change the past. After her shift, Maria walked to the community library and sat in the language section. She pulled out an English grammar book, not because she needed to study more, but because she didn't know what else to do. She was angry at herself and tired of always being almost enough. An elderly librarian walked by and paused, noticing the tears in Maria's eyes. "Are you all right, dear?" Maria smiled weakly. "Yes, just tired." The librarian looked at the grammar book and said, "Language is tricky. I've been speaking English for 80 years and I still make mistakes. Don't be too hard on yourself." Maria nodded, but she didn't believe her. Date mean for zero mistakes in this world. The interview. Email from Claire, the woman from the interview. Subject: Hello from your interview panel. Hi Maria, I hope you're well. I just wanted to say thank you again for your time a few weeks ago. I've been thinking about your interview, especially the moment when you said you were boring in your position. I knew what you meant, of course, but I also saw how embarrassed you felt afterward. I want you to know, it didn't make us think less of you. Quite the opposite. It reminded me how much courage it takes to do what you're doing. To speak in a second language, in a foreign country, under pressure. That's strength, Maria, not weakness. We ended up hiring someone with specific industry experience, but I wanted to keep your resume on file. You have something that doesn't come through in words, even perfect ones. You have grit. Please don't stop applying. I truly believe the right door will open. Maria read the message 3 times. Then she cried. Not because she got the job, she didn't, but because someone had seen her, not her mistake, not her accent, her. 3 months later, Maria got a job offer from a small startup. The interview had gone better. Not perfect. She still made small mistakes, but she didn't let them rattle her. And when they asked why she wanted to leave her old job, she smiled and said clearly, "Because I'm looking for growth. I want to learn more." This time, the message was received. A year later, Maria was promoted. She now trained new hires and sometimes spoke to clients. Her English had improved even more, but not just because of grammar. Because she had started to believe she belonged. She kept Claire's email saved in a folder called Keep Going. And whenever she heard someone struggle with a sentence or misuse a word, she smiled and said gently, "I understand. You're doing great." Because sometimes the smallest kindness can make someone brave enough to keep speaking. A language mistake doesn't define your intelligence, your worth, or your future. Everyone stumbles. What matters is that you keep speaking.